Shalom, shalom, everybody. What's going on? I've been asked why I dropped Christianity and converted to Hebrew Israelism. So I think I'll give you a brief introduction. It's a long story, but I'll make it as short as possible. I believe the Most High Yah was talking to me and my wife probably around 2019. He was telling us to move up out of the city and find a nice piece of property where you can grow your own food, where you can raise your own food, where you can develop a sort of self-sustainability. My wife was looking for the houses. To be quite honest, I really didn't think we could afford anything at that time. I pretty much had very little confidence in our economic situation. Fast forward to December of 2019, I began to actually taking looks at houses because we wanted to settle in Florida. That was the destination we were looking at. Plenty of water, plenty of hunting, fishing, fire. It was a firearm friendly state. It met all of our criteria. We live at least an hour away from a VA hospital, because since we're both combat veterans, they got the care that we need. And so that's where we were looking at. Fast forward I stopped looking come probably like January 2020, because I just in my mind I was like, we can't afford it. Then we jumped to, I'd say, about mid-March of 2020, when the pandemic was starting to pick up. I went back home to visit my dad and my younger brother, who was living with him at the time. He had just gone through a lot of things, so he was regrouping back home where he had the most support at. And I started telling them, Heather, that my wife was looking for a house or on some land. We were looking at property, and I was pretty much telling them that I don't think we could do it. That led to my brother and my dad basically convincing me that hey, all it takes is a little work on your credit, and you could easily get anything you're looking for. So they encouraged me to call Veterans Home Loans United, or I think that's the name of them. And they basically advised me on how I could get to qualify for a certain amount of a home loan, for a VA guaranteed home loan. I went back home, talked to my wife. We came up with the game plan. We paid down all of our debt except for my truck loan and the house loan that we are currently in, because she had used her VA home loan to buy a house before we had met and gotten married. So we start getting our credit right. By April, we're looking at houses. By May, we had set up a date to come to Florida to look at the houses, not in Gainesville, but in the surrounding rural areas. So we're about probably like an hour and some change outside of Gainesville. We had set up a appointment with two different realtors to look at two different properties. On the night before we went out there, the female realtor called us back and said, hey, I'm sorry I told y'all I could show y'all that property. That property's already been sold. So, you know, the enemy, Hasatan, trying to throw things at us and discourage us from moving and actually living set apart. But my wife asked me what I wanted to do. I said, well, tell her to show us some other houses. If not, we'll just go look at what the gentleman was going to show us. So she gathered up a list of houses. We met the gentleman first. He took us to that one house that we looked at. It was on 20 acres. It was a little bit older house. But with the way the roads were, there was no way my wife's SUV would have been able to make it on those roads, because they hardly ever graded them. And her SUV, even though it had a lot of clearance, it wasn't enough. So we said, you know, we really like the house, we really like how much property it's on, but unfortunately we can't do it. And he asked us if we wanted to take a look at another house that wasn't on the market yet. We said yes, but we got to meet the other realtor in about 30 minutes. And he said, okay, just call me when y'all are done. And meanwhile, this whole time, everybody kept saying, wow, you drove out here in all that weather. We didn't understand what we were talking about. I mean, we had gotten a shelter in place warning while we were on the road. But we figured it was just because we were signed up for the emergency management alerts. But we had beat a tornado out there. We were driving on the front end of a tornado, and if that ain't the Most High moving, then I don't know what is. Because my wife asked me if we should just stop the car and wait for the storm to pass. And I said, no, we're on the front end of the storm. Keep it pushing. So we made it there. We saw the first house. We liked it, but we didn't think we could do anything with it. The lady took us to several different properties. I mean, I guess she looked at us as through the same lens that I looked at us with when we started the whole journey on looking up houses, like trying to get out on some property. So we looked at all the houses she had to show us. None of them were any good. I mean, maybe one of them was good, but it was on a older mobile home sitting on 20 acres. And it's just something that we wouldn't want to deal with, because we're going to have to start replacing a lot of things. So we called the guy, and he took us to this property. The house was finished being built in November of 2019. The family didn't even really live in the house that had it built for them. It was on 10 acres. It was pretty much a blank slate, right? They had everything knocked down except for rows of pine, and probably about a 3-acre lot that was cleared for the home site. We ended up going and seeing it, and I mean, I didn't even want to get out of the car, because looking at it, I was like, this is not within our price range. So my wife goes in, I sit out in the car, and then she comes out and gets me, and she was like, I know you said to keep a game face on, but you need to come in here and look at this house. So I go in, I look at the house. I mean, it is decked out, and all praise to the Most High. It was at a time when people didn't think they were going to be able to sell their houses because of the pandemic. So we made an offer lower than what they were asking. They countered that offer, and then we met in the middle, where we paid the full amount, but they paid certain things that weren't covered with the VA when it comes to closing costs out of what we paid them for the house. So it was a good deal, and we were able to get financing like that. We move in, we found a church, Christian church. We dove in head first. They had this thing called the 3-month challenge, where you serve, you pray, and you read the Bible. We took that challenge extremely seriously. We started serving on different ministries. I was in the parking lot. I got a lot of positive energy from greeting everybody, putting them in a parking spot. Even though there was a lot of rude people, I still had fun out on the parking lot team. My wife was working with the children. She has a degree in early childhood development, so she's a certified teacher. Well, she was in Georgia, not in Florida, but so that's where her calling was. And we end up reading the Bible, and this gives us more questions than they were capable of answering. So we keep reading, and then we do they have a 6-month challenge, right? All this really was, we figured out in the end, was a way to get tithes out of you. We realized tithing wasn't what they were saying it was. Tithing is a 7-year cyclical event, and it's based on agriculture, and the last year is a fallow year where they don't tithe anything at all. That's my understanding of it. Also, my understanding of it is that if you tithe, or if someone takes a tithe, then they're not a Levite or a priest in the priesthood from the line of Aaron, that's a sin on them. So, we started growing weary of the church, and that's when I started seeing IUIC, and I basically listened to a lot of their videos. I listened to what Bishop Nathaniel had said. I went and watched a video on how Boricuas, or Puerto Ricans, were truly from the tribe of Ephraim, and I took to it because they were answering a lot of the questions that I had. Then I saw, excuse me, I feel like I got something on my nose. Then I saw, the further I got into the word, I realized that IUIC, was misinterpreting some things in my point of view, and I wanted to walk as close to the truth as I possibly can. So I seen Pastor Dow, and I know a lot of people have a lot of opinions about Pastor Dow. I don't know what's going on with him or what's going on with Straightway Truth Ministries, but I'll give them credit because they even led me even closer to walking in the truth. I started praying to Yah more frequently. My wife and I both, we were both in the Word. We were both praying. Our relationship was growing closer to Yah. We were still going to the church at this point, but I was watching Shabbat services on Saturdays, on the Sabbath, and we started honoring the Sabbath. We started practicing the feast days. We started living as we are commanded to live. Then I kind of just realized that they're preaching the same tired messages year after year. Everything is basically about tithing. It's been 3 years. They've started 2 new campuses, one in Orlando, one in Tampa. you know, they're all their messages were basically designed to get you to tithe. And meanwhile, this guy, this charlatan, has been promising a parking lot, a real paved parking lot instead of the grass. You know, he's been promising that to his parishioners or his congregation since 2016. It is 2024. They still don't have a damn parking lot, because this man is not worried about improving the conditions of any of the churches that are up under him. He is just concerned with expanding his tithing base. That's all it is. That's all the messages were about. And I think the last straw for my wife and I was a sermon where he said, I see y'all complaining on the social media, on the comment boards, mad that we're gonna have an Easter bunny at the church. If you don't like it, it's basically what he said is, it's my church, I'll do what I want. If you don't like it, don't come to church that day then. And I told my wife, I said, I got up and I walked out, because y'all, they're bringing all kinds of idols into the church. They're not teaching the word. After we started telling some of our friends about, you know, because they were asking us what about keeping the Sabbath and all that stuff, we started telling them about this. This man had never brought up the Sabbath at all. All of a sudden, his messages were containing the Sabbath being on Sunday, which we know is the first day of the week. It is called Sol Invictus. And that's the days that the Romans would worship Sol Invictus, the sun god. So my wife and I were like, no more. If we lose our friends, then we lose our friends. That's fine. We really don't care. Our concern is walking in the truth. Our concern is not with making friends. So we ended up leaving the church. I started praying to Yah to find a home, basically a spiritual home. That's when I found Great Awakening International, Hebrew Academy International, and I started to take classes through them, because I like the I guess you would say structured type teaching, right? Like it's a class. That way I can actually learn and use my critical thinking skills and develop myself, right? Develop the way I think, develop my knowledge. And through all that, here we are now. The closest assembly is Orlando, so we usually watch Shabbat on YouTube. And I mean, that's how I arrived, and that's how we arrived at converting to Hebrew Israelism and practicing Hebrew Israelism, and living set apart. We live out in the country. We grow our own food. We raise our own food. We raise chickens. We raise meat chickens this year. We got layers that you're laying year round. We grow food year round. Obviously not enough to be 100% self-sufficient, but that day will come. So I just wanted to give y'all that introduction. So shalom, I love y'all, and y'all be safe, stay blessed, peace out.